You're listening to the Huddle Up Podcast with Chad Jensen and Zach Kelberman. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com and sound off. And now it's time to drop some knowledge.
We are live. We're running a little bit late. Thanks for bearing with us, you guys. We're going to let the stream breathe just for a second here. Make sure it's nice and stable. Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up Podcast, presented, as always, by Mile High Huddle, powered by Overtime Media. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, as always, returning from a couple of days off, a weekend. I hope you had some time to, even if you weren't with Mom, I hope you got a chance to talk to Mom today, Zach.
Yeah, we actually we had a little afternoon together. It was nice, just celebrated the holiday and put the issue that shall remain nameless behind us. It's been a rough couple months. She's a little older, so she's been self-isolating, self-queuing, I'll call it. I'm not going to say the word. So it was nice to get out and about and just drive around and have some fun. So it's a good day.
Yeah, we I've been talking a little bit more about the word that shall go unnamed on Twitter. Anyone that's friends with me on Facebook knows that that's a particular topic that I am unabashed to talk about on Facebook, but I've always kept my opinions on that issue off of Twitter for the most part. But the last couple of days, I've just kind of said, you know what? Screw it. I'm over this BS, I'm over it. So it's been good, though, exercising those demons. And when I say I'm over it, I'm over it, dude. My life is back to normal, period, end of story. Life goes on. And we hope you guys, though, are having a great Mother's Day. It's a shout-out to all the awesome mothers in Broncos country. I know we got a lot. Well, I don't know about a lot. I know we have several high-profile listeners who are moms that, our thoughts are with you. And it's a day to celebrate how special and unique motherhood really is and what you all mean to each and every one of us and the people in your lives, whether it's your husband, your children, your grandchildren, some of you out there. So we give a shout out to the moms in Broncos country. And Zach, as we kind of segue in terms of what to talk about tonight, there has been no news. There's really not anything breaking over the last few days that we could dive into. So I wanted to talk about this tweet that we got from Pro Football Focus here in just a minute. But first, let me just run through and welcome in those of you who've been hanging out in the room. Sorry, we were running a little bit late tonight because a couple of reasons. One, I was flying back from a family get-together trying to get here for you guys. And we were also tackling a very slight technical difficulty that we ultimately did tackle. So Welcome into Ty, Brandon, Nad, Benz, Brian, Buana. What's up, my friend? Good to see each and every one of you. TJ, Kenneth, what's going on, you guys? This is, just for what it's worth, guys, this is one of those no holds barred Huddle Up podcasts. Whatever's on your mind, consider it a unofficial Mile High mailbag because there's not a lot cooking on the news wire. So let's just quick, Zach, before I serve this tweet to you, I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Let me just remind our listeners, make sure you're following the show on Twitter at Huddle Up Pod. That's how you keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening with the show in real time. And while you're at it, you're going to want to make sure that you also follow Mile High Huddle. So many of you have done that, but that's how you make sure you miss no breaking Broncos news and analysis. And then when you get some time, guys, you want to get your swag on, go to huddleuppod.com, get one of these hats, get a Football Priest t-shirt. The mask is behind. I would grab it. It's a little hot where I'm at right now. Get a mug. I already show you the mask, but we're loving all of the selfies, Zach, that are coming in of our great listeners that are rocking the mask. And hey, man, I understand the better safe than sorry mentality when it comes to the word that shall go unnamed. So mask up if you're out there, if that's something that you're concerned about, and that's a good way to do it.
We actually had a decent comment on YouTube, Chad. Even when the issue is resolved later in the year, it can be used as a cold weather type mask or a face guard. So not to plug it too much, it's high quality, it's good material, it's comfortable. Chad puts it on all the time. It's breathable. It's not too tight, not too loose. So if you want one, go get yourself one.
Anyone who's been to a cold weather football game, and especially if there's any moisture in the air, whether it's raining or snowing, you know that it just adds to your comfort if you can cover your face from your beak to your chin, right? If you can cover it like this, it just makes you a little bit more comfortable standing in the elements. So, You know what? It can protect you while you're out and about in the short term, and in the long term, as Zach mentioned, it can be an asset for you when you get out to the football game.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
All right, Zach, let's talk about real quick, and then we'll see what's on the minds of our awesome listeners. We've got some super chats rolling in, and Buona Beast notified me that we missed a super chat from one of our superstars, David Kilgore. So we're going to go back and find that and take care of business, take care of David, because we love you, Dave. But first, guys, the Denver Broncos, and Zach, I thought you'd get a kick out of this, and you'll see why, are one of only two teams that Pro Football Focus gave both an A+ draft grade to, plus an above average PFF free agency grade. The Denver Broncos and the Dallas Cowboys are the only two teams. And so it's kind of interesting segueing this into what I wanted to talk about is Eric Trickle today, and I guessed it on his podcast last night. That was a lot of fun. It was good to talk to you guys then. But Zach, he published a rankings article today, ranking the Broncos position groups from strongest to weakest. And suffice to say, there were some questionable things for me, but he did it completely based on what the proven talent, proven production on the field in the NFL. So, for example, you think about the fact that Pro Football Focus gave the Broncos an A+ grade, Zach, in the draft, plus an above average free agency. Well, what did the Broncos center on in the draft? It was very much wide receiver, bringing speed to the offense. On Eric's list, wide receiver is number 8. And his rationality behind that is that Cortland Sutton is the only proven NFL wide receiver in that depth chart. If it was based on potential and expectations, it would be ordered differently. But your thoughts?
I think that's fair from Eric's point of view. As much as we love Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, they are still unproven in the NFL. They have to make their bones as professional players and take that next step. I happen to agree, though, with PFF all the way around. I'm not going to go on a Cowboys tangent, but they absolutely destroyed the draft. They had a really solid offseason, even signing Andy Dalton for $7 million. The Broncos, their trade for Jarrell Casey for a 7th-round pick, Boye for a 4th-round pick, to get Jeudy at 15, not have to give up draft capital, Hamler in the 2nd round, Moody later on, Cushenberry where they got him, Chad. I happen to agree the Broncos really had a solid offseason, but I'm not using either PFF's rankings or anyone else's subjective listing in terms of ordering the Broncos' moves. Nothing matters until they get on the grass and prove their worth on the field. It's all well and good right now. Everyone is 0-0 on May 10th. The Broncos, Cowboys had really good off seasons. It's not going to matter, though, if it doesn't come out, as you say, Chad, in the wash.
It's got to come out in the wash. And just to complete this, I guess I can do really quick here. Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to do a share screen so you guys can get a little bit of a visual as we go through these really quickly. And I'm sorry, Eric, if we're stealing one of your content ideas for your podcast next week. But here's how he's got them ranked. I just want to run through these real quick, Zach. He's got running back number 1 as far as the strongest position group the Broncos have from a proven talent perspective. I would probably – you would say what?
Outside linebacker.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So running back 1, tight end 2. It is a log jam at tight end right now. Defensive line 3, special teams 4, offensive line 5. Then he's got safety at 6, edge rusher at 7. So outside backer at 7, wide receiver again at 8, and then quarterback at 9, linebacker at 10, and cornerback at 11. So his rationale on Drew Lock, let me just read this real quick. Quote, "This is not an indictment, the fact that the quarterback is ranked 9th, on Drew Lock. Jeff Driscoll is a solid backup option, and Brett Rippon will compete for it. Meanwhile, the starter, Lock, is loaded with potential, but he has a lot of growing to do to prove he is the guy. Quarterback is the most valuable position in football, and not having an answer here could really drag the team down. So hopefully Lock steps up and improves his play to be that long-term answer for Denver." Close quote. Your thoughts, my friend?
It's as much as we love Drew Lock, Chad, you and I are bigger Lock fans, I think, than most other media or analysts. He is still unproven. He's only played in 5 games. He was an unknown commodity last year, so teams didn't have film on him. This year will be changing. Teams are going to be keying in on the Broncos passing attack, looking to limit his options in the passing game. I just disagree with how Eric, and all due respect, how he ordered the list. To me, tight end, who's proven in that room? Hireman's not proven. Fumagalli's not proven. Nick Vanette's no one to write home about. Noah Fant's not proven. I would order that a little differently. Wide receiver, at least you have Cortland Sutton. He's a stud. He's a no doubt about it. Safety's up there to me, Kareem Jackson and Justin Simmons. But edge rusher to me, if you're ordering the strengths of the Broncos, Vaughn and Chubb. You can't get better than that, Chad.
I'm wondering, you guys, if the super chat that was missed, if it was on our show, Buona Beast, maybe text me if it was on our show or it was on one of the Dove Valley Deep Diver shows, because I'm just scrolling through the YouTube analytics looking. Oh, here's one. Was it about Clowney? I don't think that actually doesn't sound familiar that we talked about that. Let me just grab this from Tanner, and then we'll grab the one I think we might have missed from Dave. Tanner says, and thank you for that $5 super, my friend.
Thank you, Tanner.
Says, hi, guys. If you could have the 2013 offense, and the 15 defense on the same team, who would be your ideal coaching staff from the Josh McDaniels to the Vic Fangio time period? So you got the Peyton Manning 2013 offense, you got the Wade Phillips 2015 defense. Who would your head coach or coaching staff be? I mean, Zach, I don't know. Gary Kubiak would probably significantly dumb down that offense that was so prolific in 2013, but I got to go with Kubes because he brought home a world championship.
Yeah.
You know, I could maybe go with Vic because I like what I'm seeing so far, and I like the coaches he's put around him. But I'd probably answer off the cuff like this. Really interesting question, by the way, Tim.
Yeah,
with Kube, who brought home the bacon.
You know what? What I did like about Kubiak is that he ran all sides of the ball. Yeah, he was an offensive-minded guy, but he stuck his beacon on defense, special teams. He was really a well-rounded head coach. I have to think of, though, for defensive prowess, Vic Fangio and Wade Phillips chat on the same staff. Fangio as the head coach and Wade as a DC. Kubiak as the offensive coordinator and McDaniels. That would be an all-star coaching staff. But I will say again, the Broncos could have had, in reality, Kyle Shanahan, head coach, Wade Phillips, defensive coordinator. That, to me, is my all-star cast.
It's crazy to think that could have been a possibility. I mean, Kyle Shanahan did the rebuild in like a light speed rebuild there in San Francisco. And even though they came up short and they lost in the Super Bowl, you always are going to wonder, if you're a Broncos fan, what could have been. But that is a ship that sailed. It's Vic Fangio, it's Drew Lock, it's Pat Shurmur, and Mike Munchak. And there's a lot to be excited about with this current coaching staff, especially if they can get this young talent that the team is teaming with developed. That was another thing that Eric talked a lot about in that article is it's all great on paper. The potential is obviously through the roof. But these coaches, the onus is really on them to get these guys developed and translate that potential into on-field production. I think this is the super chat from Dave that we missed, Zach. I don't recall talking about this on Thursday, but we really appreciate you, David. I hope you know we didn't mean to skip you. He says, any chance we get Jadeveon Clowney from free agency could use a defensive end for depth?
No.
Almost no chance, David. And even if there were a chance, where are you going to play him? You're going to make him a 5-tech defensive end where he's playing inside, contending more with guards and centers than he is tackles. Like, for example, you're going to sit down Shelby Harris. You're going to sit down Jarrell Casey, probably Shelby if that's what you were thinking. Or are you going to put him on the edge, stand him up, 2-point stance, and let him rush against tackles like Vaughn and Chubb? And if that's the case, Zach, who are you sitting down, Vaughn or Chubb? So I just don't see it happening.
Even if they didn't have a starting defensive end, you're not going to pay Clowney's price. If the Broncos balked on Derek Wolfe, if they brought back Shelby Harris on a 1-year prove-it deal, they're not going to meet his asking price, which is $20 million per season. That is ridiculous for a good but not great player like Jadeveon Clowney. The Broncos have 2 of the best edge rushers in the entire NFL. They have Jarrell Casey. They have Shelby Harris. They have Mike Purcell. They just drafted Ajim. They have a really solid defensive line. I don't like this option at all, nor is it a possibility in the least. He's probably going to go to either Seattle, return there, or sign with Philadelphia. He's no way coming to Denver.
This is a dutiful, loyal son cleaning mom's house while peeping the cast. What's up, Broncos country? Good to see you, Bushido. Sorry if we mispronounce it.
You're a good man.
Let me see what Bronco Fanatic 97. Are you guys trying to look like yeah, that's right. The glasses, dude. Give us an update. You been wearing contacts or what?
No, I always squint when I look at the comments, Chad, so I want to kind of, help my eyes out today. Just kind of, individualizing myself a little bit, even though we look like twins, which we're not. But
we are becoming the same person.
Yeah, slowly but surely.
Yep, it's just what happens when you podcast every single day for 2.5 years. Zach Lee Butler jumping in with the $2 super. Appreciate you, Zach. No new offensive line. Is that Munchak or Elway power move? I think he means no offensive tackle, right? Because plenty of new offensive line interior. I mean, from Graham Glasgow to Lloyd Cushenberry and Natani Muti, plenty of new offensive linemen. As far as the tackle thing, is that Munchak or is it an Elway power move? I think it's a little bit of both, Zach. I honestly do. I think Elway, we talk about the fact that as it stands, there's a little bit of egg on his face, Elway that is, because Garrett Bowles has yet to live up to his draft pedigree. And it's not just the fact that Bowles hasn't played well and has had a lot of, facepalm moments. It's that Elway, Zach, could have drafted Ryan Ramczyk and did.
Yes.
And Ramczyk is basically, it's not quite apples to apples. It is apples to oranges almost, because he's been playing mostly right tackle and he's been blocking for Drew Brees his entire career. And Bowles has had a QB carousel and playing left tackle, which is traditionally, it's changing in the NFL, but traditionally the team's best pass rusher comes off the left side. So not quite apples to apples, but Zach, I think it's a little bit of both. He's trusting Munchak to finish the development of Bowles, and it's also Elway not quite wanting to throw in the towel on Garrett Bowles.
I'd say it's about 60-40, 70-30. Elway has final say. He picks the groceries, Chad, but he values Munchak's opinion. Munchak's the best OL coach in the business, and he said to Elway, I think I can get by with Garrett Bowles and Juwan James. I can make Wilkinson a capable swing tackle. And Elway took that advice to heart and made his decisions based around his head coaches or his assistant coaches or anyone on the staff. That's a difference between Elway now and Elway 3 years ago when he was isolating himself as the czar. He wasn't taking any outside input, and it's no coincidence as to why the Broncos drafts have gotten increasingly better as the years have worn on.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
I just realized I forgot to hardwire myself to my router, and I want to go ahead and take care of that just in case. Hopefully there's no flub ups while I do that. Awesome listener in Melbourne, Australia. Good to see you, RL. Broncos country is everywhere, man. It's all across this world. It's not a geographic location. It is a state of being. Frankie jumping in with a $10 super. Appreciate you, Frankie.
Thank you, Frankie. It's amazing.
Hey, guys. Hope all is well. I'm so stoked to see this Denver offense clicking. Yeah, man. It's really appreciate that support, Frankie, by the way. And all of our superstars on Super Chat. You know how much you guys mean to us. But it's going to be so fun, dude, to see how this takes shape, because, I mean, Eric Trickle, for example, a lot of our YouTube audience probably saw that video he published early Sunday where he was just kind of going through a few scenarios of different personnel packages that with the current talent that's on this roster now that Pat Shurmur is going to be able to utilize and move around in order to exploit the opposing defense. And, man, you think about getting two tight ends on the field, like I wouldn't be surprised because of, Zach, the speed that Albert O brings to the table, and of course Noah Fant as well. You got two seam-busting tight ends. Yeah, you got a lot of wide receivers. It's an embarrassment of riches there, Zach, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Shurmur start utilizing more two tight end sets just so that he can, for lack of a better term, F with the opposing defensive coordinator.
You know what's great, though, Chad? Every single pod, without fail, someone or another will say, I'm so excited to see the Broncos offense. I'm so excited for this season. I'm so ready to see Drew Lock. We haven't had this much hope or optimism or excitement or passion since Peyton Manning, probably back to 2013, 2014. For tortured Broncos fans, and us included, who've been covering the team through all these terrible quarterbacks, through all these non-playoff years, it's very gratifying to see it almost pay off, the hope and the groundswell of support behind Drew Lock as the franchise quarterback. I'm as excited as everybody else. I want to see Lock in action. I think he'll be the best Broncos quarterback. Obviously, they've had since Peyton, but it's just so rewarding to see all the excitement, every single pot without fail, Chad.
Absolutely. I think we're having a little bit of a connection issue. You hearing me okay, Zach? Give me a thumbs up. We're good?
Yeah, you were lagging a little bit there. But
just coming in on. Yeah, okay. Sorry, guys. I actually have an appointment with, again, hardlined into, I wonder if maybe I should just unhardline. Maybe that's the problem, because we weren't having any problems before I did that. Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to unplug this thing.
It's the beauty of live podcasting.
Yeah, guys. There's when you got two football priests live streaming from their home offices, sometimes you're going to have to roll with the punches. Meglasius Harris, that's a really cool name. It looks like you might be a Guar fan, the band Guar. Do you think we will be 11-5 this season? Hashtag Broncos.
Ooh, there's a faux pas right there.
You're going to get some hate there, dude. Broncos country, my dog. 11-5, Zach, when I went back and did the game-by-game prediction based on our gut prediction when the schedule came out on Thursday, it ended up being 11-5. And I know that is just so rosy, but I'm sticking with it for now, and I'm going to reevaluate in August. It's not necessarily a guarantee. I'm not saying that. It's a bold prediction. It's literally a 10,000-foot prediction at this point, but I really don't think 11 wins is completely outside the bounds of the plausible, just the way this schedule is shaping up.
I don't either. I mean, I've been predicting 10-6 for the longest time now, and who's to say they can't win another game and go 11-5? If this is legit the year of Drew Lock or anything close to it, they can go 11-5, 12-4. I mean, the Chiefs are their only roadblock to get to the playoffs. But if they can just either split with them or maybe sweep them or beat the teams you're supposed to beat and a couple others, there's no stopping the Broncos depending on Drew Lock's progress from going 11-5. It is certainly possible.
Leroy jumping in to let us know he ordered a scarf and a shirt last week. That's awesome, man. We really appreciate you. You know, before the word that shall go unmentioned hit, you would have already had that by now if you ordered. You'd probably be getting it like tomorrow. But it's a slight, I think, 2-day delay than usual because of what's going on. It's slowed things down slightly at the merch store, but nothing that you're going to miss. It's nothing that's going to, put you out. So make sure, Leroy, when you get your swag, you hit us up on social media, hit us up on Twitter, send us a selfie, and we'll shout you out and give you some love. David also letting us know here, one of our superstars, bona fide superstar.
Thank you, David.
Appreciate that, David. He says, I ordered a face mask a couple days ago. Looking forward to getting it. Just make sure, David, you shout us out. Let us know when you get it. Send us that selfie so that we can show you some love, my friend. King Hicks, good to see you. Speaking of superstars, good to see you guys. All right. It's going to do – dang it. I thought I could avoid it, but it did a jump. So let's grab Angela, and then I'll scroll up and hope we didn't miss anybody. Really appreciate you, Angela. You are one of our superstars on Super Chat. We really appreciate you.
That's amazing.
$21 super up in Canada. She says, love Fangio and the coaching staff teachers versus Wade that maximize the talent, then falls off. Shanahan is spilled milk. This staff teaches. Hope the offense can do it too this year. Hashtag state of being. That's a solid, I wouldn't necessarily call it a criticism of the Phillips era, but, Shane Ray didn't get developed. You could say Shaq Barrett got developed, and, we could go back in time. There is an emphasis here with Fangio, a more higher prioritization on teaching and developing. And I think she's onto something here, Zach, where that could end up paying some pretty serious dividends for this team.
What I do like about Vic Fangio compared to Vance Joseph, which is everything, but one thing I like a lot is that you see him on the sidelines interacting with players. He's not standing there with his arms crossed. He's not ignoring one side of the ball or the other. Vic Fangio is a true hands-on teacher, so I love coaches like that. And to the bigger point, it's true that Kyle Shanahan is spilled milk now. We can't cry over him. We can't rue him. I just brought that up because that would still be my ideal coaching pair is Shanahan as the head coach and play caller and Wade Phillips as a DC. I just think the Broncos would have been set up for a long period of success if they have those coaches in place.
All right, let's grab Mike Evans, who is increasingly becoming one of our consistent superstars. Really appreciate you, Mike. $10 donation. He says, do we have the best defense in the division? Appreciate y'all. It's funny to think of it this way, but the better your offense gets, the better your defense looks. Because if you think about it, the Kansas City Chiefs, man, they really haven't been that scary defensively. But think back to last year, both matchups when the Broncos faced them, because that offense put so much pressure on the opponent by putting points on the board quickly, it changes the way, the Broncos offense, for example, gets put behind the eight ball. And that defense of the Chiefs, for example, they can just tee off. Think of how many times Joe Flacco was hit and sacked in that first meeting in which, Matt Moore took over in the second quarter and still trucked the Broncos. Then fast forward to week 15 at Arrowhead, it's snowing. Drew Lock's the man. That defense, because they were able to get out to a couple of touchdown lead, they could just tee off. So is it the best division or defense in the division? On paper, I think it is. But it can become even better, Zach, on its own merit if this offense really takes that next step like we all think it will.
It's a really good point. Yeah, Drew Lock, all things considered, hopefully won't put the defense on the field with turnovers or 3-and-outs, and keeping the defense on the field is a big win for the defense and also obviously for the offense. But to answer the question, I don't think it's close, Chad. The Chiefs are in contenders for that title. The Raiders certainly are not. Maybe the Chargers, considering their secondary, but their defensive line, their front seven isn't great either. Pound for pound, position by position, the Broncos, I think, have the best defense in the AFC West, and I think for their money, Chad, the best in the AFC.
Amen to that. Let's see here, guys. Oh, there she is. I'm going to make sure this does not skip her. Bear with me 1 second, you guys. There she is. Miss Christy, $18 super. Yep, the queen of MHH in the community. We appreciate you so much, Christy, and happy Mother's Day to you.
Yes.
And to all of you out there, she says, hope you all enjoyed your day today with your moms, wives, aunts, all the moms. Nice. What's that emoji? I know it's glasses, but what does that mean?
I can't see the other emoji, but it says nice glasses.
Oh,
nice
glasses.
Means me.
Hello. See, dude, this is why I need Zach. Like, I'm that dumb dad that when the teenage, I pick up the phone and I see what they're texting each other. And I'm like, I don't understand what happened.
It's all lost on you.
Zach's going to have his kids eventually locked down, dude. Really appreciate you, Christy.
Yeah.
That means the world to us.
The Peyton effing Manning donation too, Chad. $18.
That's right. It's always symbolic with Christy. She always is communicating two things, multiple levels of analysis, because that's just who she is.
It's what the queen does.
Jumping in, $5 super.
Thank you, JP.
Appreciate you, bro. Hey, guys, hope you're doing well. To be honest, I know we're not used to getting positive news from outside, but I love it. It's going to be so satisfying shutting them up. It's true, JP. And I know we were talking, we had a little DM going on Twitter, JP and I, fellow musician. I'm an amateur musician. Used to be professional musician. Now I'm amateur musician, but we got a few things that we have in common, JP and I, including those drums, as you could probably see from his profile pic. But that's the thing when it comes to the outside perspective. You've got a couple of people who have been praising the Broncos, including Colin Cowherd. I'm trying to think who I'm missing. There's someone else out there, too, that really likes what the Broncos are doing. But most of it has just been contradictory, negative stuff that it's shade. And the Broncos, for now, it's just noise. But, Zach, I'm telling you, when Vic Fangio first steps into that very first team meeting when training camp commences, and he proceeds to do his presentation. Here's the program for this year, guys. Here's the what was the one Gary Kubiak did? Iron sharpens iron. Here's our verbiage that we're going to use, et cetera, et cetera. He's going to pull up all this negativity. He's going to have a few shots on that presentation. Mark my words. And it's going to fire up his dude. So for now, it's just motivation, Zach. It's just bulletin board material.
He's going to have a whiteboard with all these different predictions and prognostications and all these different negative statements about the Broncos. And he's right if he did that, Chad, to use it as fuel for Denver. He's around the program long enough now where he realizes the national media truly has an axe to grind, and they're never going to compliment Denver even if they do the thing correctly, even if they have the franchise quarterback, even if they win games toward the end of the season. But they're going to use that hate as motivation. And everyone that gets mad, I keep telling everyone on the pod, you love it, embrace it. That's what you want. That's what the Broncos want to operate in the same mindset with. Negativity, counting them out, underdogs. They thrive off that. So I'm all for it, Chad. I embrace that.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Jay Stepp jumping in, a superstar. Really appreciate that $5 donation, my friend. And, of course, as always, we love your profile pic, rocking the State of Being MHH hoodie. Appreciate that, my friend. He says, happy Sunday, all. Show some love. Hit the like button. # State of Being. Guys, that's a simple, organic way to support what we're doing here. You don't have to become a Super Chat superstar. You don't even have to share this video out, but at least like the video. We want you to be here, and we appreciate you being here in the conversation and being a part of it. That's one additional thing you can do, no skin off your teeth, to help support what we're doing here. Mitch, man, I would love a power ranking of all the teams' defenses in the NFL as compared to the Broncos. Mitch, as we start getting into the dog days of this offseason, that's something we'll take into consideration, and maybe we can dedicate a pod to that. it would kind of be tough to do off the cuff. So give us some time. We'll circle back on that. Oscar jumping in, $5 super. Appreciate you, Oscar. Glad to support the channel. Well, we appreciate you.
Yes.
If Bradley Chubb bounces back from injury, how would you feel about extending him early to get a more team-friendly deal? Oscar, I'd be a little bit leery of it just because this isn't the first knee injury Chubb's had. I'd want to see him sustain it. But even if he was in perfect health, Zach, and there hadn't been any issues for him as a pro, that's just not something John Elway does. He is like most – again, that Chris Harris raise last spring was the exception to the rule. Elway is like most GMs, and that is they don't show them the money. They don't open up the checkbook until they absolutely have to. So that's just the way it's going to be. Now, could they have probably saved a few bucks, Zach, if they would have done that like with Justin Simmons last year? Like about this time last year, if they would have come to the table, they would be getting him for probably half of what he's going to earn APY this year. But, that's just not the way NFL teams play. They do the, why do today what I can always do tomorrow type of ethos.
Well, that's the thing, though. Justin Simmons didn't have a contract beyond last season, though. He was going to be a free agent. Bradley Chubb's still under contract, so the Broncos had no incentive to extend him early. He's under his rookie deal. Same with Drew Lock, same with Cortland Sutton, Phillip Lindsay. Why pay these guys way before they have to? I'm all for extending Phillip Lindsay, but the Broncos' mindset and their thinking is they're being signed. They're playing for peanuts right now. Why should we give them millions in guaranteed money? Just have him play on the rookie deal. So I'm with you, though. As much as I love Chubb, I want to see him come back from that injury. I want to see him beat his 2018 form, and then I'd consider it. But knowing Elway, he's going to let that train just coast until it's in the station, Chad, until he has to pay Bradley Chubb and everybody else.
King Hicks, speaking of our superstars jumping in, $5 donation. Really appreciate you, my brother. And, we appreciate you keeping that supply chain rolling through all these last 2 months of uncertainty. He says, just want to give my MHH family a shout out. I appreciate everyone for showing support, and I really enjoyed chatting with everyone. Hashtag Chad and Zach rule. Broncos world, baby. Hey, man, we appreciate you, King Hicks, and it's obviously the least we can do. You're a big part of the community, and we really, really do appreciate you. Donnie Boy here, Zach. Albert O is 3 words, a red zone threat. That corner fade route he runs is money in the red zone. It's almost automatic with Drew throwing the ball. It's poetry, and that's true. I mean, that's one thing that Locke talked about, Zach, in his virtual presser last Tuesday, is go back and look at the tape of when Albert O and I were at Missouri. He's such a big, enormous physical human, and he's athletic and he's fast. That corner route in the red zone was something the Tigers used consistently to make some hay.
Thought he meant that Albert O's last name is 3 words. I was getting ready to agree. It's a mouthful, yeah. I agree, though. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the fastest guy in the world. I wouldn't say he's Travis Kelce reincarnated, but they have really good chemistry, Drew Lock and Albert O. He's a seam buster down the middle of the field. As Chad just said, a great red zone weapon. He's going to help out this offense, but don't expect them to be Gronkowski and Hernandez right away. It's going to be Fant as a tight end 1 in Shermer's offense, and then any other scraps after him will go to Albert O.
Christy jumping back in. Really appreciate you.
The Elway donation.
Going, y'all. We really appreciate you, Christy. Thank you, Christy. Kenneth Booker brings something up that is a sore spot for each and every Broncos fan, and even those who cover this team, because when you cover a team, you try to maintain an objective perspective in your analysis, but you can't help but become invested in the team. You care. You can't not care. And I mean, ask anyone who's been assigned that's come from outside the market, taken a job in Denver, now covers the Broncos like my partner here. You end up becoming invested. And Kenneth here says, why is Randy Gradishar not in the Hall of Fame? He has almost 900 more tackles than Mike Singletary in 2 less seasons and averaged 14 tackles a game. Your guess is as good as ours, my friend, other than the fact that it's a Bronco bias in the Hall of Fame. And this was something that I mentioned to Carl Mecklenburg, who's another egregious omission from the Hall of Fame. Just a couple of days ago, we talked on social media, and it doesn't make sense. If Carl or Gradishar or Dennis Smith, for example, if any 3 of those guys played in Pittsburgh, Dallas, New York Giants, Green Bay Packers, we can name a few more, they'd be in the Hall. It is a Bronco bias. They'll explain it by saying they didn't bring home a world championship. Any of those 3 players didn't play on a world champion team. But to me, that's just the excuse, Zach. That's just an excuse.
It's the same reason that it took Pat Bowlen forever to get in, Steve Atwater forever to get in. It's the same reason that Mike Shanahan's still on, and considering he won multiple titles and he's one of the best coaches of all time, Chad. I don't know another way to put it. It's not having enough recognition from an NFL sense or a general sense, a community sense, a common human being sense. I can't explain it. Chad can't explain it. Hopefully, though, with Atwater getting in, Bowlen getting in, it will open the floodgates for future Broncos in the years to come.
Jay Stepp with a good question here, jumping back in. Who is the bigger threat, the Las Vegas Raiders or the LA Chargers in the division other than us? So I think if you just reword the question to the effect of, Zach, who's the biggest threat to the Broncos in the division besides the Chiefs? For me, honestly, it's the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, I'm highly suspicious of Justin Herbert being the truth. And if he is the truth, I will fall on that sword. I'll eat my crow. I'll put a little sriracha on it, and I'll eat that crow. But I just don't see them being a factor this year. They can have all the Pro Bowl defensive backs in the world.
Right.
But as you've seen in Denver these last 4 years, if you don't have a quarterback, a legit quarterback, you're dead in the water. So for me, it's Vegas. And as I mentioned in my game-by-game prediction of the schedule, and actually I think it was in the 5 games to circle video I published over the weekend, I have a sneaking suspicion that Las Vegas is going to be surprisingly good. And even if they're not surprisingly good this year, Zach, they've split with the Broncos each of the last few years. I mean, since Chucky returned to the Raiders, they've split with the Broncos both years. So I'm more worried about them than I am the Chargers.
I mean, I have the Broncos sweeping the Chargers this year, so I'm not too terrified of them. Their defense is going to be good, and I think Anthony Lynn is a good head coach, but I'm not scared of Tyrod Taylor or Justin Herbert, anyone on that offense. Austin Eckler is a good player, but he doesn't scare me too much. The Raiders, though, if Gruden can get Derek Carr to the 2016 level he was playing at, that team can make some noise. Not saying wild card, not saying Super Bowl contender, but they can be a thorn in the Broncos' side, maybe a 7-8, maybe a 9-win team. But they're going to be a thorn in the Broncos' side. They're not going to be an easy out. And that's why, and Chad has, the Broncos splitting with them in 2020.
And remember, 3 teams get into the wild card this year.
Right.
So, they're not going to the 17-game schedule until 2021, but the 17 playoff gauntlet begins this year. So there's room for one more seat at the table now when it comes to the playoffs, and it'll be really cool to see how those implications play out once you get to, December football. Yeah. JP jumping back in. Appreciate you, bro.
Thank you, JP.
Next time we win the Super Bowl, I hope Von Miller is still on the roster. Such a gift to the franchise, a great leader, even better person. He deserves it. That would be cool, man. But you know what's great to think about is Von Miller does not need another world championship to cement his Hall of Fame status. Like, he's a lot for the Hall. He could retire tomorrow. He's not going to, knock on wood. He's going to be in the Hall exactly 6 years after he retires that.
Plus, he already delivered the Broncos the Super Bowl, and he was the MVP of the game. I mean, even if he doesn't win another title, he still changed the course of Broncos history. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a Ring of Famer. He's one of the best players to ever play. And to answer the question, though, considering his future, I think that will be determined this season, Chad. How this season goes for Von, coming off a really non-Von-like 2019 campaign, he gets back to that Von-like form from years past. I think it will increase his odds of scoring another contract with the Broncos.
Agreed. Terry, one of our bona fide superstars from the MHH Mount Rushmore, in fact, jumping in with the $2 super. State of being, baby. Drop a like. Peeps, appreciate that, Terry, and you as well, Nad.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you, my friend. And every show of support like that means the world to us, so we really appreciate that. Andy jumping in. We don't want to neglect our Facebook audience. How many home games do you guys average a year? If you can only get to one home game this year, which is that game? One fan in Kansas and the world. Love the broadcast. Thanks again. Andy, I circled, for what it's worth, 5 games on the schedule. I circled the home opener against Tennessee. I circled week 3 against Tampa Bay just because of Tom Brady coming back to the Mile High City. I circled week 7, I want to say it was, against the Chiefs in Denver. So 3 home games already. Week 10 on the road against the Raiders. That's an away game. And then week 15 against the Bills. So any of those 4 home games that I just mentioned, those would be great games for any fan to get to because they're all going to have unique implications beyond just, this is a great matchup. Like, it's going to have some kind of play, with the exception of the Tampa Bay game. That's all about just Brady storylines and Drew Lock measuring himself against one of the GOATs in Denver. All those other games, Zach, they have implications for the postseason.
I would like to see the Saints game as well, Chad. Drew Lock versus Drew Brees. If the Broncos are facing a bona fide Super Bowl contender with a Hall of Fame quarterback, how they match up in that game, depending on if they won or lose the previous week. I want to see how Lock goes toe-to-toe by that point in his first season as a starter, where he's more comfortable, where the season's already well in play. I want to see how he matches up with a team like the Saints to go along with the games that you mentioned as well.
Ian wants to know on Facebook, would you guys try and get Earl Thomas if the price is right in a trade? If his wife will let him go.
Got to get his brother, too. It's a package deal.
It really is, guys. Google it, okay? First of all, it'd be great to have a three-headed safety attack that was Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson, and Earl Thomas. But it's just not going to happen. In a perfect world, the answer would be yes, Ian. But in a practical sense, can you fit his contract under the current salary cap? You probably could, but then you're going to be right up against it. You're not going to have that Evan Mathis slush fund. And one of those three guys is going to be doing a lot of sitting on the sidelines, because you're going to roll with your big nickel meaning three safeties on the field quite often, depending on the personnel packages you're going up against. But one of those three would not be getting starter snaps. So it's fun to spitball, Zach, but not very realistic as an option.
I hate to be blunt about it, but I don't want a guy whose wife held a gun to his head. I don't want a guy who's engaging in orgies with his brother involved. I don't want a guy who's flipping off his head coach on the sideline while getting carted off the field. No to Earl Thomas. I'm good with Trey Marshall in that role, or Douglas Coleman. Just a heavy, hard pass on Earl Thomas. Good points, all.
Yo, DB for life, Denver Broncos for life. Hey, guys, is it true that we might be playing in London one game of the schedule? It was. That has now been canceled because of the word that shall go unnamed. Yeah. The game's still taking place, but it turned from a neutral setting in the United Kingdom to an away game against the Atlanta Falcons. So that game will be played in Atlanta, Zach. Unfortunately, and so many great members of Broncos country are in the United Kingdom. It's tragic that they're getting that taken away from them, but the NFL is just playing better safe than sorry. And certain countries are a little bit more absolute about their public, what's the word I'm looking for? The way the schedule is going to unfold, between now and then in the United Kingdom in terms of social distancing, probably going to be quite different than the way it ends up unfolding in the United States. So the NFL is just playing it safe.
And rest assured, the Broncos more than likely will be awarded a London game next year to make up for them not being overseas this year, part of the international series. But the good thing about it is, the Broncos' bye week comes before that Atlanta game now, an early East Coast road game, so it worked out to the Broncos' advantage either way.
David jumping back in, bona fide MHH superstar. Yeah. Appreciate you, bro. Have you guys heard anything out of Dove Valley about us going after an offensive lineman in free agency? Really hope we get Jason Peters. Also looking forward to Madden 21 coming out. Yeah, man. I used to seriously set my clock to Madden. Yeah. But ever since Madden's been around since the 90s, so I'm dating myself a little bit. But ever since I started MHH, I just don't have as much time to play Madden as I would like to in a perfect world, even during the off season. But I'm with you, David. I'm still going to go out and buy it. Even if I don't get to play it much, Zach, my boys will play it like crazy.
I used to wait in line at midnight at GameStop for the new releases of Madden every year. I was a huge Madden player, but it seemed like years ago the game just was a new roster update for $60, $70 a year. It wasn't worth the money or investment. I was disappointed in Madden the way it was laid out. Not to get into it now, but it's exciting that it means football's around the corner, but I'm not personally invested in Madden any longer.
As far as the free agent, and by the way, yo, DB for life, we appreciate you, my friend. That means a lot to us.
You.
David, as far as the free agent tackle question, I really don't think that it's going to happen if and until the Broncos get to training camp and things aren't shaping up at offensive tackle with Bowles, or James is nursing something with injury-wise. Or I just think they're going to wait on that. And even if it means risking a guy like Jason Peters or Cordy Glenn getting swooped up between now and then, the Broncos can justify that to themselves, because they can say, well, by the time we get to training camp and you get into August, even preseason, you're always going to get those surprise roster cuts that you just didn't see coming. And we'll just find a way, if push comes to shove, to make the most of it if and when that happens.
This is a pretty funny comment, though, speaking of Madden. Bill O'Brien makes his strings according to Madden rankings. You know what, though? I agree with you, Chad, but I agree for a different reason. I think the Broncos are going to wait, but that's because it drives down the price of Jason Peters, drives down the price of Cordy Glenn, Kelvin Beachum. The longer they're on the open market, the cheaper they can come. Jason Peters just sent out a video through Adam Schefter, or his agent did, of him working out. He was looking very explosive, fast, quick feet. The guy is 38, but you would never know it by the shape he's in still. So he's probably holding out for starters' money or starters' job. I think the Broncos, if they do wait, it will be money and financially driven, Chad.
Amen. George jumping in, one of our bona fide superstars as well, MHH Mount Rushmore.
Thank you, George.
We appreciate you so much, George. He says, getting lots of compliments here in New York on my MHH mask. Good to hear. Good to hear. Going to have to purchase a couple more. Yeah, you got to have freshies, right? You got to have freshies for when you're out and about. But
Thank you, George.
Yeah, that's good to hear, my friend. Dave D in Cali jumping in. Really appreciate you as well, my friend. Looking for a big running game due to the passing threats. Hashtag KJ Blur. Your response to Dave D there, Zach?
I do think a passing attack will open up the running game. I mean, play action will work out for the Broncos, and having a two-headed a backfield of Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay, having your receivers being Sutton, you have Noah Fant, you have Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler. Who do you defend? So one will play into the other, Chad. If they can get their passing game going, the running game will open up, and vice versa. There's no such thing as too many weapons. The offense will be balanced and fun to watch.
That's why the onus, it's not only on the coaches to develop, but the pressure is really on Pat Shurmur because, I mean, this entire offseason, it's not like they've neglected the defense. They've added pieces where they need to, including on the trading block with Jarrell Casey and A.J. Bouye. But this whole offseason has been about building that nest around Drew Lock, and it puts a lot of pressure on Pat Shurmur, and we're going to find out whether or not he's up to the challenge. I think that he is. He just simply makes for a better OC than he does a head coach. He's a great offensive coordinator. He's one of the most coveted offensive coordinators in the NFL. I think it might not hit the ground running out of the gate, Zach. We don't know exactly how all these restrictions in the offseason are going to end up playing out, but you got to assume it's going to take a little bit of time to gel. That's why I'm circling week 3. One of the reasons I should say that I'm circling that week 3 game against Tampa Bay as one of the games to really watch because I think that's about where this offense is going to start opening up, and you're going to potentially have yourself a shootout there at Mile High with the Bruce Arians offense as quarterback, which can be very explosive vertical offense, as quarterback by Tom Brady with Gronk, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. I mean, it could be a fireworks show, that game.
That's a really good point, Chad. It's like Elway bought all the groceries this offseason. Now he's saying to Pat Shurmur, listen, cook the recipe. I've done enough. I've done my part. And it's more pressure on Pat Shurmur because not only does he have all these weapons to satisfy and mouths to feed, Chad, he has to develop Drew Lock in his first season as the starter. That's a tall task for a guy who's new to the organization, coming off a head coaching stint. I have confidence in him, but you're right. The pressure is squarely on Pat, and his shoulders maybe more than anybody else on that coaching staff.
Yo, that's really cool, man. We really appreciate you. Long-time listener, just showing some love for the first time on Super Chat tonight. Means a lot to us, my friend. Yeah. Appreciate you. Jason jumping in with a $10 super. Thank you, Jason. Hey, guys, what's up? Thanks for all that you do. Keep up the good work. Just showing some love. Really appreciate that, Jason. Denver Broncos for life, indeed. I don't think you put that much thought into it, Steve, to be honest with you.
No, it was a happy accident.
It was, and I chose to wear this shirt and this hat today, so it's just it's just the universe aligning the stars perfectly. Sure. All right, let's see. We're getting close. We're at 48 minutes, so let's make sure we're not missing any of our superstars here. Real quick, though, this is a good one from Vinay. Bleacher Report did power rankings of all the defenses and offenses in the league. They ranked the Broncos 6th on defense and 25th on offense, saying that the Broncos are too unproven but have the potential for top 10. And that's kind of the point, Zach, that I think Eric was making today is, on paper, there's a lot to get excited about. You just, it's hard to rank this offense at this stage just because Courtland Sutton, proven, Phillip Lindsay, proven. You can say Melvin Gordon, proven, but now he's in a new city. Noah Fant scratching the surface on being proven. I mean, he did have a record-breaking rookie campaign, but he's still very much in his learning curve. So it's just, and Drew Lock, of course, as well. And then you add Jeudy and Hamler and Alberto and the interior offensive linemen. It's so many moving parts. it could end up being a top 10 offense, but it's got to come out in the wash.
But I hate this. So it's take a stand. If the Broncos are 25th, they have potential to be top 10. What offense doesn't have potential to be top 10? They can be first. They can be second. It's your fence sitting here. I agree they're fairly unproven, but the collection of talent alone, what 6 teams were worse than them? And what teams immediately preceded them? That's what I'd like to know. I don't put any stock, no offense, in the Bleacher Report's rankings. It's completely arbitrary. It's done by a fan, no different than you or I. I don't like fence sitting, Chad. Take a stand about the Broncos. I think they're better than 25th, but to say it potentially be top 10, that's every team and every player in the NFL. It's all about potential. So it doesn't mean anything to me.
That's like my beef with the 8-8 predictions of these last few years. Like, okay, what are the Broncos going to do this year? We don't know what to expect, so 8-8. Like,
right down the middle.
If they end up being a couple games under, you don't look too wrong. If they end up going a couple games over, you don't look too wrong. But similar thought there. Bushido jumping back in. I love the idea of Fant and Albert O with Sutton and Judy, with Lindsey and Gordon in the backfield, or 5 wide with Hamler in there as well. Almost a Madden offense. Ha ha. Indeed. And that's why it really comes down to Shermer just being the right X's and O's guy. And Drew Lock, you got to be that point guard. You got to be that distributor of the football, find the open guy. And I'm just really excited to see how it shakes out. I think, look, the thing to get most excited about, in my opinion, Zach, isn't Pat Shermer's X's and O's acumen, which are legit. He's just very smart and proven. His coaching tree ties to Andy Reid. There's a lot of bona fides there. But his ability, especially in tandem with Mike Shula, to reach and develop young quarterbacks and help them take that quantum leap forward. I mean, dude, Daniel Jones, I'm telling you guys, Daniel Jones outkicked his coverage last year, 24 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and 12 starts, thanks to those 2 coaches. And so if a guy like Daniel Jones, who is seriously limited physically, unlike Drew Lock, can do what he did, I mean, I shudder to think what Lock can accomplish with those 2 coaches, one on each shoulder.
It can be a Madden offense, and on paper it's a Madden-type offense, but we have to be realistic as well and think there's too many mouths to feed. And Pat Shermer is not a magician. He's not a god. He's not going to feed them all every time. There's going to be some squabbling, I'm sure, maybe internally. There's going to be players that are left out of the game plan every single week, but you're not going to get KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, Noah Fant, Phillip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon, all the ball in any given week. So you're going to have to think to yourself, okay, Hamler might take a couple weeks to get going. He might be game plan specific. Albert O, he's the second tight end in the scheme that doesn't feature tight end. So we have to be realistic as well. It's going to be a very fun offense, explosive offense, downfield offense. But we also have to keep in mind that Shermer can't feed every single player. Some are going to be better than others, with Drew Lock under center this season.
Sykes JB jumping in with a $20 super chat. Really appreciate that, Sykes. And if you're on Twitter, reach out. And this goes for all of our superstars. Make sure you reach out and let us know who you are. You might already be following either Zach or myself. You might already be following Mile High Huddle or at Huddle Up Pod. But just reach out and say, hey, I'm just connecting the dots for you. Because so many times the name on YouTube is different than the handle on Twitter. And sometimes even the name on Twitter and the handle are different. So like I need people to just spell it out for me. This is who I am. For example, like Kevin P did today on Twitter, one of our superstars who let me know exactly who it is. And it helps out a lot. He says, just got in. We'll listen later. But sure was great. Really appreciate you, my friend. Awesome. We got a Twitch. Guys, I don't know anything about Twitch because I'm not a huge gamer. All I know is I was told by someone that whose opinion when it comes to digital media I trust. He said, you got to start streaming on Twitch. If you're already streaming on YouTube and you're already streaming on Facebook and you're already streaming on Periscope, you got to also start streaming on Twitch. And so I created an account, just started doing it. And I don't know how to grow that audience other than just put out the content. So Chromie, welcome in. Appreciate you spending some time with us here tonight. Wants to know if the Broncos should trade for Lions center Jake Lentz. No, my friend. The Broncos have a starting center now by the name of Lloyd Cushenberry that they procured with the 84th pick in the 3rd round of the draft. We're rolling with that dude.
And they got their guy from the Lions and Graham Glasgow. So they've poached the Lions pipeline, all they're going to do this season.
Yes, dude. Earl Thomas. Just Google it, dog. Just Google it.
I was going to say, read the question, Chad. It's so surreal.
Earl Thomas, orgy with his brother.
Just read it out loud is what I'm saying. It's crazy.
It is what it is. But it's funny. I mean, anytime there's threat of aggravated assault, it's maybe not funny, but still it's.
Or murder, first-degree murder.
Right. It's a unique story in the NFL landscape. Derek jumping in with a very generous super chat.
Derek, thank you so much.
Appreciate that $25 donation, my friend. Make sure you reach out if you're on Twitter. He says, a little off subject, but am I the only one worried that this team may struggle to win games? I think they should like another letdown season. I think they should. Another letdown season would really suck. # Denver Broncos for life. I mean, it's fair, Derek. Listen, after what the depredations Broncos country has gone through these last 4 years post Super Bowl 50, you're well within your right to be worried. Until they prove it to you that times really have changed. I mean, if that 4-1 finish with Drew Lock, that's a lot to get excited about, but you got to pull that through the entire offseason and translate that momentum into 2020's regular season. We think it's going to happen one way or another, but it's well within your rationale rights to be concerned, I think, Zach.
The threat is always there, Chad. In the NFL, there's no such thing as absolute truths, and it's a league dominated by parity every single season. That's why no one can predict what's going to happen at any given time. If Locke doesn't take that next step, they can have a down year. If he gets injured, the season could be lost. But we don't ride on negativity. We don't base our opinions and our analysis around negativity or positivity for that matter. We base it around realism, what our eyes are seeing, what our brains are telling us, what we see on film. We happen to think, Chad and I, that Drew Lock is going to take that next step. We happen to think the Broncos are going to be a playoff team, but by no means is it a lock. There's no locks in the NFL. They can easily be 4-12 again, 5-11. We just don't think that's much of a possibility this season.
That's why one of the reasons the NFL is king on the American sports landscape is the parity. Teams go from first to worst and vice versa each and every year. And so that's one of the reasons to be optimistic, though, that the Denver Broncos could be one of those worst to first, even though they finished second last year in the AFC West, a turnaround type of team. Derek says, showed a couple of friends some 2019 highlights of Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. They were both intimidated. Ha. Drew Lock with them weapons. Yo. Jeudy, Hamler, Lindsey, Fenton, Sutton. # football IQ. Yeah, man. I mean, again, Drew Lock is going to be loaded for bear on this hunt. Let's just hope he can shoot straight.
And what we always like, Chad, is the Broncos devoted their entire offseason to their young franchise quarterback. You have to love their mindset and the way they've constructed this roster for Drew Lock exclusively.
All right, let's see what else we got here. We're at 57 minutes. We got to start winding it down, unfortunately. As we get close to the 1 hour mark here. Let me just see here. Bear with me 1 second, you guys. I don't want to skip anyone. We hate doing that. Jay Stepp, appreciate you jumping back in on on Super Chat. Bonafide Superstar. Agree, guys. Lots of weapons. Who will be the two that most stand out for 1,000 receiving yards? I say Fant and Sutton. # state of being. I think Fant will get close. I think Fant, when I say close, I think he'll get last year in Rich Scangarello's offense with 3 different quarterbacks. It was 500 something yards he had, right? 580 or something like that. I think getting closer to between 700 and 800 is probably where Fant lies, but there's so many mouths to feed on that offense. Right. To answer that question, 2 most likely, it's got to be Sutton and Jeudy. Hamler, I don't think, is going to have enough touches, or I should say receptions, to get to 1,000 receiving yards. But Jeudy and Sutton are going to consume the majority of the volume, and that adds up over time.
I could see Fant being a big contributor in the red zone, only having 500, 600 yards, but having 8 to 10 touchdowns. But in yards-wise, I do believe that Cortland Sutton's no doubt about it. He'll be 11, 12, 13, 1,400 yards. Jerry Jeudy, 9 to 1,000 yards. But you have to remember, Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay, they're going to siphon targets away as well. KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick, Deshaun Hamilton makes the final roster. Cleveland, if he makes the final roster. There are so many mouths to feed, so many reps to go around, and these pass catchers are divas. It's not a cliche. Even Cortland Sutton, he wants his action. He's never going to admit it, but he wants to be the guy, the wide receiver 1. And it went back to what Chad was saying about Pat Shurmur. The onus falls on him to feed all these mouths. It's almost an impossible task.
It's going to be fun, though, right? Seeing how this thing shakes out. Kane jumping in with a $5 super. Thank you, Kane. It's good to see you on Super Chat, my friend. He says, there is no excuse for Drew Lock. Oh, I guess I need to put him on screen. Hello. There is no excuse for Drew Lock not to take the next step with all those weapons, to me. Repping from here in Texas, in the Panhandle, by the way. Very cool, Kane. And if you're on Twitter, make sure you reach out. Let's connect. We're going to be shouting you out after this show as a superstar. So connect with us, my friend, if you're on Twitter, that is. And the Texas Panhandle, again, man, it's all about Broncos country is a state of being, baby. But, yeah, I mean, a lot of pressure is on Drew Lock. I think he's capable of weathering that pressure. And Pat Shurmur.
Drew Lock's development ultimately is up to Drew Lock, though, Chad. I'm sure Pat Shurmur will have the right scheme in place. He certainly has the weaponry in place, but it's all about Lock committing himself to the game, being a Broncos franchise quarterback. I think he will, but it's not an absolute. It's not a guarantee.
78 Leadhead saying, Drew Lock has it, whatever it is. He's not your typical young signal caller. He's going to go ham this year. I truthfully could see 32 touchdowns. Translate ham for me, Zach. Do you know what
Harder,
that Huh?
Hard. It was what the Kanye and Jay-Z said. What was it? Hard as MF?
Okay.
I don't want to say it.
See? You talk about a compliment. You know, the Broncos needed to find a true compliment for Cortland Sutton. This is how Zach and I compliment each other. But
I haven't heard that term in years.
Drew Lock does have it. And, I mean, I talked to Drew Lock face-to-face, and he has it. And, you know, you wanted to see that come out on the field. And when we saw him those first 3 games in the preseason, I really didn't think we were going to see it, even if he hadn't hurt himself. I really didn't think we were going to see him take the kind of leap he did if he got an opportunity as a rookie. And, man, just that from that 3rd preseason game to Week 13, he was a little sketchy, a little touch and go in that Week 13 game. But, man, Week 14 in Houston opened up the floodgates, and unquestionably he's got it. But there are a lot of quarterbacks that have it that end up bumping their head and not quite fulfilling their full potential. I mean, Matthew Stafford's a good example of that. Matt Ryan is another example of that. Guys that come close, but they just can't quite get over the hump, most of the time having to do with organizational symptoms that lead to that. I don't think that's going to be the case with Drew Lock, Zach, but we just got to see him put it out on the field.
I do agree, though. It might go back to my optimistic view of Drew Lock, but I just see there's a different vibe about him. He's not a Paxton Lynch. He's not a Trevor Siemian. He's not an old breed of quarterback. He's among the new crop of quarterbacks, Chad. He's a dual threat guy. He can use his legs. He has a strong arm. His love and passion for the game, his commitment to learning the game, his work ethic, his alpha personality, none of these things are teachable. These are all intangibles. These are all things that make a franchise quarterback a franchise quarterback. But again, he has to take those things and harness those intangibles and put it out and make tangible progress on the field.
Derek jumping back in. Thank you, Derek.
Wow, Derek.
He says, I don't have a Twitter, but I agree. No negative thoughts from here on in. Is there a chance the Broncos go out and try to find a coverage linebacker? We have good ones, but no one I trust. I really don't think they're going to do that, Derek. I think if they're going to have one emerge, it's going to be, they believe, Justin Sternad, if he can get fully healthy. I think he will. He's already had that surgery on his bicep. Once they can get to Dove Valley and start working with the trainers, I think Sternad is going to be good to go as a rookie this year. I don't know how much Fangio and company are planning on having to rely on him, but he's the guy. He's the athletic coverage guy. I mean, they got him in the 4th or 5th round, and it might not pay immediate dividends, but it will eventually. In the meantime, the Broncos will use Fangio's zone coverages, which take a lot of pressure off of those linebackers, even though opposing offenses down the stretch last year, man, they really figured out how to single those linebackers out in coverage. So Fangio's going to have a counter to that, and we agree with you. It's not a perfect scenario, but I don't see him going out and signing an additional coverage linebacker. Zach.
Let me amend a previous statement. The only absolute truth in the NFL is Vic Fangio and John Elway not spending money on an inside linebacker or drafting using capital on an inside linebacker. They really believe they can build up any guy from the bottom of the barrel type to an undrafted guy to a rookie guy. And you know what? I think A.J. Johnson's progress last year proved that. I think the sum of all their parts will be capable enough for Denver this year. Todd Davis, Josie Jewell, A.J. Johnson, and Sternad. But Sternad's going to be starting by midseason. That's my not-so-bold prediction for Denver. Johnson and Sternad, 2 athletic, speedy, young guys, sideline to sideline, 3-down inside linebackers. bye-bye, Todd Davis.
That'll be cool. Kenneth Booker, did you watch the UFC fights? It's a good step to having sports back. I did not watch them, but I'm thanking God that that Dana White and the executive leadership of the UFC pushed forward with that. It's a good, they're leading from the front. They're saying, look, guys, let's get this party restarted on American professional sports. So I didn't watch, Zach, but I'm thanking the good Lord that they did that.
I'm not a huge UFC guy, but I give Dana White a lot of credit, Chad, for going against the grain and not buying into the fear and not buying into the fear-mongering and the panic. And there was no fans in the stands, and all the fighters were tested, and they were all negative. And he kind of is breaking the mold for his sport. And from a businessman's point of view, I give him a lot of credit for that.
All right, guys, 2 more super chats here, and then we got to get out of here for tonight. Derek jumping in, $5 super. Wow, thanks again, Derek.
Thank you so much.
You. Hoping Broncos offense is going to be that sleeper team. The doubts get shut down with our offensive performance. The wins will speak for themselves. Yeah, man, the Broncos could very well be that sleeper. And, it's not, even if they end up being everything fans hope they are, it's really inconvenient that you have the Kansas City Chiefs in your division. That's just going to be a thorn in the Broncos' side for the next 10 plus years. It just is what it is. That's just, you wake up in the morning, the sky is blue, the Kansas City Chiefs are in your division. It's matter of fact, it's reality. Find a way to defeat them. And if they can take one step closer to doing that this year by splitting with the Chiefs, winning at least the home game in Denver, man, that would almost feel like, it's been so long, week 2 of 2015 since the Broncos beat the Chiefs. I would almost celebrate that as someone covering this team in the same way that the Broncos won the Super Bowl. I know that sounds outlandish, but I would be on cloud 9 if the Broncos could beat the Chiefs this year at home.
Yeah, well said, Chad. I want to just add to that. It might be a little rocky to start the season. It might be a lot of glitches, and it might be a little rust with the offense and Drew Lock. But no matter if they win by 1 point or 100 points, a win is a win is a win in the NFL. And come the end of the year, when the Broncos are 10-6, 11-5, making some postseason noise, this narrative will be flipped on its ear. But only if and until the Broncos stack those W's, Chad.
All right, guys. Terry jumping in, $2 super again. Thanks, Terry. We appreciate you, bro. Judy and Hamler, over under 1,700 yards combined. # Broncos World. I think the over under from the odds makers on Judy alone is 824.5 as far as yards that he'll produce, receiving yards as a rookie. I'm taking the slight over. So what would that leave? Let's just say 900 yards. So that would leave 800 yards for Hamler. I'm not sure Hamler gets quite that many yards as a rookie. We'll see. I would probably take the under if I was actually betting real money, Terry, but it wouldn't surprise me to see him go over.
Yeah, I'm taking the under as well. If this was Sutton and Judy, I'm taking the over. If this even was Sutton and Hamler, I think Sutton's going to have 1,200 on his own. I just don't think KJ will be right out of the gates a 100-yard per game kind of guy. He's going to be a very game plan specific kind of guy, a downfield threat, a special teams contributor. I'm going under on that. I think Judy will flirt with 1,000 yards, 900 to 1,000 yards. I see KJ at like 600-700 with 4 or 5 touchdowns this year, John.
Wanna Beast reminding everybody and thanking everybody for joining the pod, which we echo. Remember to continue the conversation at milehighhuddle.com. The guys get to the questions there really well. Head to huddleuppod.com for your gear. Broncos World, baby. And that's true. That's how you keep the conversation going. Meet us at milehighhuddle.com, the community section, the comment section. That's literally where we're hanging out all day long. And then one last Hail Mary 11th hour super chat from one of our longtime listeners and a very valued member of our community. Discount Audio and Wills, D.A. Dub, jumping in, $20 super. Thanks, my friend.
That's incredible. Thank you.
And I hope things are continuing to open up and do better for your business, and things are going well for you, or at least better. Does Justin Simmons sign a new deal, or does he play under the franchise tag for the year? I would hate to say this. If you can't sign him, would you consider trading him, especially with Fangio's system makes safeties ball? I have that very doubt. As you guys know, I expressed it. Not a popular opinion. The wisdom of paying Justin Simmons top of the line money because it is a safety friendly system that Fangio brings to the table, but that's a ship that has already sailed. John Elway, every player he has franchise tagged since he became a front office guy, he has worked out a long-term extension before the deadline. I don't think that's going to change this year. That will happen. I mean, I don't even have to say it's a bold prediction. Like that will happen because Simmons wants to stay. Simmons wants a long-term deal, and the Broncos want the same. So I think that'll get done sometime in July.
They have 2 months still, over 2 months if you want to get technical, until July 15th. So that's plenty of time. And Simmons is the kind of guy where he wants to get paid. He wants long-term security for him and his family, but he's the guy who's not going to hold the Broncos over a barrel. He'd probably give them something of a hometown discount knowing who Justin Simmons is and the kind of guy he is. I'm not worried at all. They're putting money aside for him. They've already expressed and admitted they want him to be along for the long term, to be a future part of the franchise, a core piece of the defensive puzzle. I have no doubts or worries about Simmons being signed. It will happen by July 15th.
All right, guys, we got to get out of here for tonight. We want all of our great moms in Broncos country to enjoy the rest of your Mother's Day. And fellas out there, make sure you show the love to the moms in your life and your wives and your grandmas. You don't need us to tell you that, but just a reminder. Also, make sure you're following the podcast on Twitter at HuddleUpPod. That's how you stay in touch with everything that's happening in real time. We're going to do another giveaway this week, so stay tuned for that. And also, while you're at it, make sure you follow the main account at Mile High Huddle. You can find my partner here, Zach Kelberman, at Kelberman NFL, myself at Chad N. Jensen. If you're in a position to do this, head over to huddleuppod.com, get your swag on, get a football priest hat, get a State of Being hoodie, get a shirt, whatever, a mug, a face mask. It's another way you can support what we're doing here if you're in a position to do so. And we always appreciate that. Thanks to each and every one of you for joining us live and contributing to the conversation in the stream and the community. You guys are as much a part of this podcast and what we do on a daily basis as we are. That's the honest to goodness truth. And a mile high salute to our superstars. Really appreciate you guys. You know we love you. And Zach, my friend, have a great start to your week out there, buddy.
You as well, Chad. I'm looking forward to starting another week of potting with you, and hopefully we have some news tomorrow to talk and break down.
Amen to that. If not, we'll start rolling up our sleeves and getting creative. We've been doing this long enough to know exactly how to deep dive during the off season. It's no skin off our teeth, and we relish the opportunity. So shout out to each and every one of you. Happy Mother's Day to the mothers out there. We love you. And for Zach, I'm Chad. We'll talk to you tomorrow night, 6:15 Mountain, 8:15 Eastern.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.